Welcome back, number 8. We're at question 240 of Chapter 4, Section 5, Calc 3. Here we're given that z is a function of x and y. It's 3 cosine x minus the sine of xy. But x and y are both, in turn, functions of t. So x is 1 over t, and y is 3t. And what they want is the first derivative of z with respect to t. Now, of course, you can replace all the x's with 1 over t and all the y's with 3t and differentiate with respect to t directly. Or let's practice what's in this chapter, the multivariate chain rule, which says the first partial of z with respect to t is the first partial of z with respect to x times the derivative of x with respect to t plus the first partial of z with respect to y times the derivative of y with respect to t. Okay, so what's the first partial of z with respect to x? Well, the derivative of the cosine of x is negative sine x, so negative 3 sine x. And the derivative of sine of x times a constant is the cosine of x times a constant times the derivative of x times a constant is the constant. So minus y cosine of xy. Perfect. Plus, that times the derivative of x with respect to t. Now think about it, this is t to the negative 1, so the derivative of that with respect to t is negative 1 t to the negative 2, or negative 1 over t squared. Plus, what's the first partial of z with respect to y? Well, there's no y in here, so that's a constant. The derivative with respect to y is 0. The derivative of negative sine of y times a constant is going to be negative, that's right, let's just write it out, negative cosine, because we're not changing the sign of the SIGN of the SINE. So derivative of sine is cosine of xy, but the differential with respect to y, so the derivative of xy with respect to y is x. Okay. Okay, that times the derivative of y with respect to t, well, the derivative of 3t with respect to t is 3. Wow, what a mess. Okay, now can we clean this up at all? Well, that's in terms of x and y, but now let's go back and put in what x and y are. So now we have a negative 3 and a negative y times a negative 1. They're all going to become positive, right? So I'm just going to say 3 sine of x, but that's 1 over t, minus y, which is 3t, times the cosine of xy, but the x times y is just 3. 1 over t times 3t is just 3. That's all over t squared. Okay, and then this is going to be minus 3 times x, which is 1 over t, cosine of xy, but again, xy is 3. And that's an answer, but notice, if we get a common denominator of t squared, multiply the top and bottom by t, you get 3t cosine 3 over t squared. And wait, we're changing this sign. We're changing this, right? So the negative 3 became a positive 3, the negative y became a positive y, right? Okay. So we have a positive 3t cosine 3 over t squared and negative 3t cosine 3 over t squared. They cancel, so all that's left is 3 sine of 1 over t quantity divided by quantity divided by t squared. There you go. So that's the final answer in terms of t. All right, bye-bye, numerate. Hope that was helpful. Good luck.